our guest a few questions. He is Dan Bynum. He is the curator of the Birmingham, um, Alabama Power, which is located in Birmingham. They have a corporate collection, and normally that's what consumes Dan's time. I am Georgia Ann Banks Martin. I am the president of Montgomery Art Guild. And at the moment, I am going to start addressing Dan. Dan?
Yes, Georgia. Thank you for that nice intro.
You're welcome. Been curious, and I know others are. The show is unusually strong. It is beautiful.
Mhm.
And what always comes up is how does the judge pick from over 100 entries, the entries that they have actually presented us with. So could you give us some idea of your criterion?
Sure. Well, first off, I look at the entire body before I pick even one and take it all in. Being an artist myself, I go in and look at the narrative, not just the techniques. Okay, so yeah, everything I saw was skillfully done, great craftsmanship, uh, great talent, even wonderful presentation, which is rare on a show. Everyone presented their work very well framed. But I take the entire body of work in and then go back and start picking and selecting those that really speak or have a narrative and see a passion held within the artist. I was, as I told Georgia and Warren, I was pleasantly impressed with the amount of work in this show that dealt with humanity. Very, very nice and pleasant surprise at how many pieces and how many artists were dealing with the subject of humanity. And as you can well imagine, we're seeing that in the art world right now more than ever for various reasons in our world and culture. So those things really stood out to me. The presentation, how a skill or talent was used, and then the degree of it, and then also the the subject matter of humanity in the show.
All right. Were there any weaknesses that you noticed that our listeners could use to improve their submissions?
Could have had more space. That has nothing to do with the work. Nice space, don't get me wrong, but yeah, this work deserves more space. It was just nice to see it, like I said, as a body of work. But no, I can't see anything to improve on. Again, a lot of times when you jury a show or see a show like this, some pieces are not framed complimentary for the work. You know, framing can make a piece or break a piece a lot of times, or compete with the art, right? A frame could compete or distract from the art or cheapen the art. Everything I saw was well thought out and professionally presented.
Okay. Well, are there any pieces in particular that you would like to give a closer critique about?
Yeah, I saved, I'm gonna try to share my screen, okay?
All
This piece stood out to me here wonderfully. Just the use of the tools, the control, but an uncontrolled. Color choice. We have pure color, and then we have the mixing of the colors here as well. And something else that this piece reminds me of that I saw throughout a lot of the show was the composition.
Mhm.
How many times do we see someone, an artist, be afraid or fearful of letting the subject matter run off the page? You
Mhm.
can see here with her feet and her hair,
Mhm.
just well done and not quite centered. 1/3 rule off to the right a little bit here. Just a wonderful, wonderful piece dealing with positive and negative space up here as well. This piece here, the
Mhm.
juxtaposition and contrast between the highly technically done face versus the flat leaves and background here and the flat color here. And then we have a textured pattern here. Just a wonderful juxtaposition for my eye here. My eye went back and forth between these two spaces. Just a really nice, again, compositionally done, the border, and again, the palette, the choice of almost muted colors, and then these vibrant blues and oranges here. Really nice. And then finally, best to show, this checked all the boxes for me. Wonderfully done. Again, wonderful presentation in the photo frame, but let's look at the composition. Not afraid to use the negative space here as part of the composition, right?
Mhm.
Look at the stitch work to direct your eye, the first time viewer's eye, for the motion of the water. And then the short, small stitching here to create what we know is the texture of the ground, and darker as it goes back here, which we know in the picture plane, it would get darker back here. And then finally, the one thing that struck me on these was the tones, the dyes of the selected stitch work here. And the highlights here, just everything about this piece. Love how it's ended here, but not ended here. You know, my eye sees more going off the picture plane here. And then just the buildup of textures was so intriguing to me. Very intimate piece, right? But
Mhm.
just beautiful tones and hues, and compositionally beautiful. Just it's so strong.
Okay.
Those three. Yeah.
It's quite beautiful. Do you have others that you would like to speak of?
Sure. This one I love because it was just the confidence of the free flowing and positive negative. This casting of an image beneath the new image, the dancing figures, very loose, very free form, but yet there is a control there compositionally. Love the palette. These split complementary colors with green and pink complementary, and then the darks that come in too to give it the visual weight. Just very well done there. Beautiful, beautiful tones. This one again, as I said before, composition. How many times do we see someone draw the entire face as a portrait or think they have to get everything in there? This piece gives me just enough as the first time viewer to know the sadness, the hurt, the humanity in this one. Great crop, great crop, great value and hues of the skin tone, and the darks of the nostrils and eye, and the highlight here. No really hard lines here. Everything very painterly, very soft, right? But
Mhm.
compositionally, and the confidence to do something big. Uh,
Mhm.
really, really nice piece. This one was nice. I love the tones and hues, the wash and all. Again, wonderfully presented. Wonderfully presented. This one right here was really striking. I kept going back to it and looking at it. If you know anything about firing a raku and doing this, it's not an easy task. And there's happy accidents that happen with it, and then there's accidents where you lose all your work. This is beautifully done. And the textures and the tones and the shape of the vessel, it was just really intriguing and beautiful. Would love to see a show of all of these. Oh yeah, if I remember right, there were two similar like this in the show. I love black and white. The hues again and value to be able to accomplish the values of the black and white is pretty impressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this artist took it to another level. The narrative, the story here, the position of the chair sideways, her propped up. You have this zigzag going down, which is really interesting with the leg crossed, you know, that makes my eye stay within the composition. I come down here and then I go across here and I see the chair up, and then the folds bring me back down here, and this is grounded. Then I come back up again. And there I am taking a photo. Let's see. And these guys were very well done as well. Love seeing the crack in all of this, the turning. That authenticates it for me. Very well presented and preserved. And just beautiful shape, beautiful organic shape, and verifying to me the materials and a great sense for the material.
Mm-hmm.
Great sense for the material. No, it doesn't seem forced. This piece, again, I know I've said narrative over and over, but the narrative just carries it. Beautiful narrative. Great colors, very vibrant, pops, right? But this narrative of the butterfly, the bee, and all this brings me in and pulls me in. Again, running off the composition. Very nice. Oh, and this little photo, I just kept going back to this little photo. A great little shot, but the contrast here and the composition, this wall dividing it, this pattern of these beautiful bricks, and then the depth of field with the alley here and the power lines in the back. It just has a great range of depth here, just a nice little snapshot. But it is so intriguing and intimate with this in the foreground and then the vanishing point in the background, just and well presented. There was a couple by this artist, and I was just intrigued with the style and the narrative on this one. Very well done. Look at these beautiful tones of color beneath here. I see violets, I see blues, I see reds, and then this buff background, just a great blend and use of the palette there, and this wavy signature pattern on these. Oh yeah, this one again, black and white is beautiful, but this charcoal, it just has this velvety feel, soft feel to it, right? Humanity. Great use of the shadow, it'll feel depth of range, wonderful pattern again, the legs, and creating this composition with my eye stays within the picture plane, and great gestural lines here. Nothing really hard, but look at the shadow on the face here, but just enough I can still see the eye, just really soft and a great touch there with the medium. Yeah, all of those stood out,
Mhm.
Georgia.
Okay, that's great. That's some wonderful work.
Yeah, you you guys should really hold your head high. This is a very strong show.
You spoke about um the difference in composition that
Mhm,
you chose some that were very traditional, and then you have some very contemporary pieces in that use other techniques to balance um, like color and
mhm.
focus and etc. Can you give us a little bit more about that and the contrasting between those two schools of thought?
Well, the show exemplifies that, right? The show
Mhm,
has all of that, and I think that's again why I say you should hold your head high and tip my hat to the variety of the show.
mhm,
Um, so often we go to, let's say, an open air fair or a festival, and it's cookie cutter. We see same old, same old. This show is not, and you see some very traditional techniques and methods, and you see some very contemporary, and you see some mixed media in there, like some of the juxtapositions I spoke about. I just think, it shows a lot of confidence among the artists and the members,
mhm.
and it shows a level of skill as well.
All right.
It was a pleasant surprise.
You've already mentioned how this show contrasts to festivals and some other sort of shows. So that took my question away. However, I'm wondering a little bit more about your background. How long have you been at Alabama Power?
I've been at Alabama Power 30 years. Um, I'm actually in the PR department. I have to wear many hats besides just curating the corporate art collection, also in the advertising and logo area. But I am an artist. I was fortunate enough to receive art scholarship to UAB. I have taught art at UAB as well at Studio by the Tracks, places. I just did Kentuck Festival this weekend, and it was a wonderful experience too. If you've never done Kentuck or been to Kentuck, I highly suggest you as an artist visit that festival. It is fantastic.
It's quite an honor to be awarded a place in that show as well. So kudos to you.
Thank you. It's my first year. I've never tried. Friends and colleagues encouraged me to do it, and 270 artists
Mhm.
for 2 days with an average. They said they had 10,000 people in attendance. I believe it.
Great.
Um, it was a great show, great variety as well.
Mhm.
Great variety.
Can you tell us a bit more about your work
Sure.
and what influences you?
Yeah, my work deals with humanity, and it's my work deals with being raised in a blue collar neighborhood in Birmingham, Alabama, a kooky little neighborhood. And as you're growing up as a kid, you're discovering stuff, right? And there are idiosyncrasies, things that don't quite make sense to you as you're growing up, and you're trying to figure out. You're asking adults and folks, and you're getting different answers. So much of my work is based on my childhood in the sun-dry Birmingham neighborhood, and the things that just were curiosities to me or discoveries as I do it. I collect vintage wallpaper from the 40s and 30s, and I lay down the original wallpaper as a collage, if you will.
Mhm.
Let that dry, and then I put a clear coat on it. So it's a layering process. Once that's dry, I start adding acrylic and charcoal to the top
Mm.
of it
Mhm.
for my subject matter. I love, the feel of charcoal, but I love the acrylic, flat acrylic with it. I love when color meets black and white in compositions for a narrative. It works with my work and the story of my childhood. So that's where I am right now on my work. I've been a practicing artist and showing since 1990.
Mm.
First show was at Bare Hands Gallery in Birmingham and Marilyn Wilson. I'm showing in Nashville and at Marietta, Georgia right now.
Oh, wonderful. All right, I'm going to turn it over to our audience members. Who would like to ask Dan some questions?
Q&A.
Hmm.
Well, let me ask y'all a question. How do y'all feel about the show, Georgia, based on the previous shows? Because I haven't seen previous shows.
Um, our show last year was groundbreaking in that a lot of the work was abstract, which is
Mhm.
something we don't see in gallery as often as it should be presented. Uh, it was a very organic sort of show. The theme was not really obvious, but it was a very good grouping,
Uh-huh.
and by definition, it pushed our artists to points that I've never seen before. A lot of people experimenting with different styles than what we're used to. We got a lot of new artists
Good.
last year.
Mm.
Um, but basically, as far as this show and last show, it's the craft is the um highest that we have in this area. Uh, eh, direct contrast is pretty much impossible due to the fact that the previous judge was an abstract artist and he focused a lot on bringing in a lot of contemporary and a lot of abstract work. So the two shows are very different. The quality of this one honestly is higher than I have seen in several years.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, as an art guild, are you seeing younger members?
We have a few
Okay.
who come in every year to challenge it, to
Yeah.
see if they can get into this type of show.
Uh-huh.
So that happens every year. Um, and I think this year was no exception. I saw several people who I know, but have never seen their work hang in a show like this.
Wow. That's cool.
Mhm.
How has the show been received by the public?
Those that I've talked to about it uh, feel the same way that we do. It is simply an outstanding show. It was worth hanging. They like the variety of pieces in the show.
Good.
And some people have been surprised about what actually has been presented. A lot of people don't know what we have here in Montgomery. And part of that is because of the lack of wall space.
I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, we simply do not get to present the variety of shows that we would like to. We have two
Uh-huh.
new shows now, the membership show and another show that is a celebration of Black History Month, which is positivity in the Black community and
Mhm.
culture, where everybody, regardless of race or religion, is invited to bring in work that celebrates what they see
Mhm.
is a contribution, a positive contribution to African American art and helping to place it
Yeah.
properly in American art.
Well, I'll say again, and you touched on it, the public uh, sh- should be pleasantly pleased with it. I believe it's a wonderful snapshot of the talent in the area. When I left the show from during it, I was pleasantly surprised to discover the Georgine Clark Museum there, and go through it, because Georgine Clark, you may know, started Kentuck. That was her baby, and she oversaw the Arts Alabama and all grants, and had encouraged me for years. Georgine's no longer with us, but she had encouraged me for years to do Kentuck. So that was a pleasant surprise when art was on my mind, and saw that Georgine's museum was there. Y'all have a great, saying all that, so you have a great little arts community there in Montgomery and what's going
Yeah,
on. Mhm.
we do. We really do. All right, I'm going to try again.
Yeah.
Sunny, would you like to say something?
I was just really encouraged by everything you said regarding the show. I do agree that we have a strong arts community, but I also saw a lot of seasoned artists trying new things, continuing, like you said, Georgia, from last year. And I think that really sort of amplified the energy of the pieces. One, myself included, my painting was the first one that you brought up, vibes. And this is, I've always enjoyed color and, painting people,
Mhm.
but I really tried to push myself further. And I was thrilled and honored that you chose it as a first place award. But I was also thrilled that I was not the only person pushing themselves further. So I really thank you for your time and for all of your positive words.
Well, thank you, Sonny, for making great art. That's a wonderful piece. If I remember correctly, you had two pieces in the show.
Yes.
They're both fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but that one, that strong vertical, and like I said, being brave enough for the figure to run off the page. I mean, we know as artists, the viewer we don't need the full figure to know it's the figure, but also your use of color, and the way you were bold enough to mix it there on it, and then the pure colors. And again, humanity. It's just really well done. You should feel good about it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
But I agree with you and what Georgia said. It was neat to see these different styles or different aesthetics, if you will, art hanging next to each other. All right, right. Because two things about that, is as a curator, that's what our corporate collection is about. And I don't want to promote that right now, but I want to say, a successful show reflects our community, right? And we're not all alike. And everyone that comes to that show at Regions is not alike. So just like I say about going to Kentuck, you're going to see something you love and you're going to see something you don't love, but you're going to see something you love, right? And you're going to discover something that speaks to you, and some stuff that may question you. And then this show that you guys and girls have put together in Montgomery, it was really neat to see the diversity in style and techniques and narrative. And then also it was cool to see, this piece next to this piece that probably would never be side by side in a show or a gallery, and it is. And that in itself is what I'm talking about. It gives a great snippet of what's going on in Montgomery in the arts community.
Hmm.
and in our state.
Well, that's a credit to our team who
Yes.
hangs our work every year. They're extremely experienced, and I'm always amazed at the
Mhm.
arrangements that they come up with. So that in and of itself is worth you coming on here to
Yeah.
say.
There is an art to the installation. Yeah.
Yes, yes, there is. Let's see, Dockery, did you want to say something?
Okay. I guess, thank you very much, Dan, for coming down, taking the time out to
You're welcome.
come and jury the show. My background, I've been a graphic designer for 30 plus years. So this was my first time entering the Region show. I just
Wow.
recently got back into the Art Guild,
Uh-huh.
and I've entered some shows other places, but really trying to tap into the Montgomery market and the Alabama artists. There's some really outstanding artists here that in Alabama, not just Montgomery, but Montgomery does have my heart. But and I'm an artist that jumps all over because I have to feed the beast, if that
Right.
makes any sense.
Right.
And I enjoy all types of art and
Mhm.
always have. So I was very pleased and excited when I saw the show.
Good.
And I just thought all the pieces were fabulous, and I loved what you picked. You
Good.
know, I really enjoyed it all.
Which piece was yours? Remind me, please.
Well, you didn't show it, so I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Which one was it? Well,
I had two pieces. One was a plein air landscape. It was called Freedom Highway,
okay. Yeah.
going down Highway 80.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm also a grandmother.
Okay.
Do a little traveling to go
Yeah.
take care of grandkids.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm also working, I've got this real creative side that I did this piece with flowers. It was a glass. It was half empty, half full.
Yeah,
I'm kind of working on a series of idioms, and that's how I raised my children,
I got you.
get over
Mhm.
things. So
Well, if I could have logged on my laptop, if I could have connected to the Zoom on laptop, your work would have been shown. I had made a slide presentation on my laptop to go through. And because I couldn't, I had to just grab the thumb drive and come upstairs to this one. But yeah, wonderful work. And you get the award tonight for having the best authentic background as an artist. I see brushes and I love it. I love it.
I will
I mean,
point out my squirrel.
I
They all know
saw
I
the
love
squirrel.
squirrels.
I see the squirrel and all the brushes and all. It's if we called Central Casting and asked for an artist studio. There it is. It's beautiful.
Well, sorry, I'm
Oh, I love
kind
it.
of clutter, but
I love it.
anyway, thank you. Thank you
Thank-
for your kind words.
I thank you for making a great work and glad that you like the variety of the show as well.
Yeah. I don't know about other artists, but I mean, I've got this side of me that wants to go wild,
Mhm.
then a side that has to do portraiture for a while. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, I just, and then a side that does squirrels. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I think we are all, and I guess at my age, I have the privilege of just doing whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it for the first time ever.
Isn't that liberating?
It is exciting. And
Yeah.
I've got all these things I've thought about all these years,
Yeah.
but raising kids, working,
I know.
you just can't. You think, And a lot of times I paint memories.
Okay,
Because uh, I want to leave something for my children
sure.
to remember,
Yeah.
you know. And that, I think that's what got me on this series of idioms, you know, because like I said, I would try instead of, I would try and teach them a life lesson as they
Mhm.
were growing or something was pulling them down. And
Right.
Well,
Yeah, you said something about you have to do, I have to tell people, I have to make art or I'll go crazy. It is always a form of escape and a good escape.
yeah,
But we are documenting memories as artists, right? We are making these visual diaries, if you will,
yeah, yeah.
of things. And through art history, we see artists have done that, captured the periods.
Hmm.
But as I
Sure.
said in the beginning, right now, if you look at the art world and the show that you guys and girls put on in Montgomery definitely shows it. Art now is more about humanity than ever before.
all right.
Oh,
Ken,
nice, nice,
this is Freedom's Highway by Dockery.
nice,
Thank you.
great composition.
That was, being in Montgomery and everything and the history
Yeah,
that is here, and Highway 80 to
Yeah.
Selma and Montgomery.
Mhm.
I go down it for a totally different reason, going to see my newborn grandson. And but I'm alone. And
yeah,
I think about the vastness and what was
Mhm.
going through everyone's heart and mind when this all took place.
Mhm.
And they didn't have the beautiful road I had.
Right.
So it was quite a struggle, but
Uh,
it is some beauty too.
It is. I love your use of violet or purple here. Very few landscape artists are confident enough to do it. And, again, anyone can plop in color, but does it work? Yeah, this works. It works very well. We've all seen that violet in skies before at a certain time of the day, but can you capture it? And you've captured it here. Very nice.
Thank you.
And then the shadows casting across the road here. Very well done. I love that.
Thank you.
Dockery, before we move on, are those hay stacks?
No, actually, it was just a field that had their trees. I kind of hit it. I'm trying to think. Probably the first of spring was that journey. Y'all, please don't tell on me, but I sit there driving, taking pictures.
I know people that do that.
Okay,
We're all
please,
guilty of that as artists.
please don't
Yeah,
tell on me, but I promise
Hey,
no other
we're
car.
guilty of that.
hey, I'm the
But
one who
it
stops
was
somebody and said,
spring.
Yeah.
I stopped somebody to say, hey, there's a picture on that corner. Let's go.
But so things were just starting to green out.
Oh, okay.
That's why, but no, there could have been some hayfields, but I didn't see them.
Okay, well, thank you. Jay Washburn, would you like to say something?
I would. This has just been a privilege to be part of the exhibit this year. It's been a few years since I submitted, and I really enjoy hearing your thought process for selection. I really appreciate how you bring to light the common thread that you see, and I think it's just an honor to be part of. Your art gets to be a part of a bigger conversation, and it's just I'm thankful for the opportunity. Montgomery Art Guild has done some really amazing work, especially in the last few years. You're very intentional about how you're focusing and trying to build this up. And I'm from Birmingham area, so it is
Okay.
well worth the drive to visit Montgomery. This will be actually, I dropped off, I went to the show, and this will be the third time we're going down tomorrow to pick up our pieces.
Oh, great.
I did have a question.
Sure.
How difficult is it? My entries were photographs,
Okay.
and I really appreciate that you did happen to select one of mine. So
Okay.
it's a doubly an honor. But how difficult is it to make selections from a variety of media, as opposed to, for example, jurying an entirely a show of only photographs or
Yeah.
only certain media? Is it difficult?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it's not, it's more difficult. I mean, let's face it, it's difficult to select pieces, right? Because,
Mhm.
we all see things differently. Thank goodness. We all see things differently, and you see work, and, I respect, we all respect the technical aspect of it and skill sets, but what are you doing with that? What is the artist? What are they doing with their talent, their skill? What is the story here? What's the narrative? What's the passion? What's the mission? I read something this weekend that said we're all searching to be happy, and once we find our mission, we find happiness. And we have to have what's the mission and going on there, and that's one thing that I look for is how successful is the story. I really don't judge by the story, but how successful with the story. And that way it's, I mean, our challenge as artists, we're not poets, we're not writers, we're not singers. Our challenge is to communicate with symbols, right? We're communicating with basically symbols, abstract or not. So I'm looking at that communication and how the artist, how successful artist is doing that, whether they're using a camera or whether they're turning wood, how successful is he or her with that. And then, you look at the level of confidence too with art, the confident artist will attack art, will dive into it. As my professor in college used to say, he or she won't tickle the canvas, that you dive into it. And I saw that, and you being a photographer right now, I'm sure everyone who has a phone right now believes, they're a published photographer. That's encouraging, but no, we're not all photographers, and we're not all writers just because we're on Twitter. But how are you using the camera? How are you? What's your treatment of the composition, and is it a successful story? And and a documenting of time, like we said. Georgia, can you show me her work, please? I'm trying to recall.
I like what you showed in these various pieces and the boldness and how going off the page, and I can't wait to try that. And I think that's one benefit of getting to be a part of this, is to be stretched even out by works that are not necessarily in your genre or that are the same media. I really
Right.
appreciate that.
Well, I encourage you to, if you're not on Instagram, just get on Instagram and look at art. Okay, it's a great portfolio of what's going on, and let's just be honest, artists inspire artists.
Absolutely.
Some of the best work I made was when I was in 4-hour studios in college, and you were locked in that room with other artists. And we don't rip off or copy each other, but everyone's experimenting, trying to find their niche at that time. And as a kid, my parents did not take me to the museums and galleries. It was the Sunday comics or comic books, and you know how the artist would run things off the storyboard, picture plane. There'd be close-ups, and then there'd be far back. And oh yeah, beautiful piece. Beautiful piece. This one, what was so striking to me was the use of light. Okay, yeah, you have the black background, which is incredible contrast with the beautiful sunflowers and the cord there, and then the shiny silvers. We've got all these textures going from the sleek, smooth, cool scissors to the head of the sunflowers, you know, and all these textures. But the use of light, the reflections of the sunflowers off here, and these petals and the shadows and the hairs off the threads here, you know, I just love the use of light on this one. It was masterfully done
Thank you.
by that. Great piece. And also, you've been a photographer, I want to tell you, great selection of size to print.
Thank you. It's kind of unusual. I normally go with the 2:3 ratio, and this
Yeah.
one just, I don't know, seemed to work differently.
Wonderful how you use the thread here and placement to come out here and bring the eye back up into here. And you created, as we said earlier, that circle. You know, you want the viewer's eye to stay in the picture plane. You don't want it to go off. You have this wonderful circle oval going here on this. With my eye stays within here, I come down here and see this. These petals bring me down here, and then I go back up because of the reflection. And then this chord is just a wonderful composition.
Thank you.
Okay, I have another question for you, Dan.
Mhm.
You keep mentioning this idea of stretching yourself in various ways. I was taught in my MFA program, which happens to be in creative writing. My professor encouraged the same thing. And the reason he said that is because so many writers and artists, the whole genre of artist, we might say, have traditionally had this idea that once you started in a successful style, you just keep it.
Right.
How important do you think it is for those of us who are interdisciplinary artists to continue A, reaching out, and B, encouraging younger generations or other generations who are working perhaps in different ways to do the same thing?
I think it's the first part of your question. I think it is crucial. If we're a successful artist, if you look at the successful artists, art history and contemporary, they always show growth. They always show growth. Now they may have their red period or the robot period, whatever, but they all showed growth, right? To get to it. And I'm a firm believer that being stagnant is a kiss of death in any field. I challenge myself before I do a piece. I know the story I want to tell from my childhood, but I'll write just a paragraph. I'm not a writer, but I'll do just a paragraph to keep me on track as I'm working on that piece for months. Okay. And I can go back to that story and remember, oh yeah, and I'm tweaking it and going like that. And I think, and you talk about the younger artists or young generation coming in too. They're bold. They're bold. I mean, they're blowing it up. You take this weekend at Kentuck. Majority of the generation millennials are doing mixed media because they're throwing everything against the wall. They're throwing everything in there. And for me, that's exciting. That's really liberating. You know, they prove what a professor of mine always told me. Why are you here? Well, you're here to learn the rules so you'll know how to break them. Okay. And sticking with those rules, it was difficult for me. I'll be honest, my first show outside of the university system, I showed my portfolio and I was told immediately, stop treating it like an assignment. And it really took my mentor coming to my house for the first time to have dinner, and he pointed to a piece of art on my wall and he said, "Who is that?" And my wife told him, "Dan did that for our house." He said, "Why in the hell are you not showing this in the galleries?" And I said, "Well, I did that for me." And he said, "Well, that's what you should be showing. You're still treating it like an assignment, and it's not in the syllabus. Do that." So I think it's very important, Georgia, that you push yourself and you challenge yourself. And one of the ways for me, we get in this belief as artists because we want to be full-time artists and we want our community to react or act to our work and we want them to buy it. That's all gravy, right? And so it's so easy to get in that niche to say, "Oh, this is working. I'm going to do this series for the rest of my life because it's selling." And I have friends that's doing that, and that's cool, right? We have an artist in Alabama that does football scenes, and he's a millionaire now. But we're in Alabama and it's working. But at the same time, our community and collectors want to see growth. We want to see growth, and you should show growth in that, and not stay in that niche of like that. I think it's very important to show that and not fall into that. Okay, this is selling, and this is what I'm gonna do until I die. In fact, I don't know how you do that. I get bored with it, very quickly. But that's a great question, Georgia, because it's. I have a friend who is a writer, and she's been published 4 or 5 times, and she got in that rut. And then what she did is she writes the last chapter first, and then works her way back. And I thought that was brilliant, and it helped her snap out of that rut. And in fact, I was reading earlier today. I don't know if y'all know Jeff Lynne, who is the lead singer of ELO. He posted today that his friend Tom Petty would have been 72. And he was talking about how Tom Petty would do that too. He would write the last verse and then kind of work his way back. And it reminded me about that. Good question.
Excellent. My final question is about corporate collecting. I've had over the years, many people ballyhoo the fact that a lot of African-American work is in the hands of corporations or individuals, and those families won't give them up. The other place I've seen that with is primitive art, where people will become fascinated by the outsider movement, and they will begin to exclusively collect art from untrained, or what people would say, semi-trained artists. How important do you think the corporate collections are?
I believe it's incredibly important. We talked about it earlier when I said, but take Alabama Power's collection. Okay, our mission statement. The mission statement there is to celebrate the great work in our state. When we do construction and we buy a piece of art to go on that new wall, we're only going to buy homegrown stuff. Okay, as our CEO says, we're going to buy homegrown art because we know there's great work in this state, right? We don't have to go to California or New York to get great art. there's great art in this state.
Mhm.
And at Alabama Power, our mission statement says, we will purchase art that not only reflects the diversity of our state, but the diversity of our workforce. Right? Earlier we said, we're not all alike, and the art should reflect that too, in humanity. And also we know that in corporate collections, we have employees who will never go to a gallery or museum.
Mhm.
And they're going to discover that work in the lobby, in the conference room, or in the hallway. One of the many blessed gifts I've had through the years of managing a corporate collection is about this time of year, November, December, an employee will come up to me and say, hey, that piece of art on the 8th floor, I took a photo of it, hope you didn't mind, shared it with my wife. We really would like to buy a piece from that artist. We've been saving up some money and we don't want to buy poster prints anymore and frame them. Can we meet that artist? And of course, as an art ambassador, I will introduce them to that artist for a studio visit or share the website with them and make sure, they can't afford it and they're not surprised, and introduce them. And then I'll see them in January or February and they say, hey, we bought a piece as a holiday gift to ourselves and we're so tickled. It helps them jump into the collector's market, right? They jump in and all of a sudden they have a visual value, not a monetary value, but a visual value, and they jump into it. And that's, I always tell them, they say, who's hot right now? Who should I purchase, for a value? Don't ever do that. Buy what you enjoy looking at. It's going to be on your walls. Your home, your office should reflect you.
Right.
And I mean, let's say the art market's the worst market to gamble on. We don't know what's going to be up and down. Most time, as crude as it is, it's up when that person passes away because they're not making any more art. Production is stopped. Just crude. So buy what you enjoy and what speaks to you. But corporate collections give so many people the opportunity to discover art who may never go to a gallery or museum. And it also gives the artists a chance, just like your show, right? There's a piece hanging next to another piece that probably would never be together, but in the corporate environment, the same thing happens. The same thing happens. And it also, we have found out by accident, those pieces, when I hang a piece by Marilyn Wilson next to a piece by Lonnie Holly in a conference room, it's a great conversation starter. It's a great conversation starter for people. And people start talking about it and someone knows about it. Then someone will get their phone and Google it and do the research and they're hooked. Just a great moment. And, also corporate versus residential art. And I do both. But corporate art, because of 9-foot, 10-foot ceilings, take a bank, is always a large piece, right? And that's even better for the artist. That's a huge investment. It's a huge visual value and it's exciting. Now, I think every bank in downtown Birmingham now has that massive piece of art at the elevator lobbies. Why? Because they want you to look at it and not think about waiting for an elevator. And it's the fireplace in the living room. It's the focal point. Another great way for the individual that may never go to a museum or a Kentuck or an art guild show, they would discover it in what we call common space.
Okay. Well, thank you for your insight, your time, and your energy. This, like I said before, this is an unusually strong show, and I felt like you were one very good judge.
No, thank you.
I am very thankful to the person who recommended you to us, just because of the working experience. Before we close, is there anyone who has any other questions or comments? Okay, then I'm going to end here.
Thank you, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I did too. Thank you. Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you, Dan. Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.